Have you ever visited a friend or family member with the best of intentions, only to leave feeling awkward or uncertain? Maybe you've even wondered if your well-meaning visits are doing more harm than good, rather than strengthening the relationship. If you're in your 60s or older, navigating these dynamics can become even more delicate as you look to preserve your relationships while honoring your need for personal space. In today's video, I'm going to share 4 types of people you should consider avoiding visiting after 60. People whose presence, while well-meaning, might cause more tension than connection. Trust me, understanding these boundaries can make a world of difference in how you maintain healthy, meaningful relationships with your loved ones. By the end of this video, you'll gain practical insights on how to respect others' boundaries without feeling like you're distancing yourself. You'll learn why a simple gesture like calling ahead before a visit can transform your interactions, and how stepping back at the right time can bring you closer to those you care about. I'm not just talking about manners here. This is about emotional maturity, maintaining your peace, and protecting your well-being as you age. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the pressures of family or friendship, or if you've wondered how to balance love and personal space, this video is for you. Stick around until the end to discover how setting healthy boundaries can lead to more fulfilling and stress-free relationships, allowing you to truly enjoy the time you spend with loved ones. So let's dive in and explore how we can nurture stronger, more respectful connections, without overstepping any lines. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. Avoid visiting old friends' houses. As we travel through life, we accumulate countless memories, experiences, and relationships that shape us into the individuals we become. We develop bonds with people who become more than just friends. They become a part of our story. These relationships, built on shared experiences and mutual understanding, are some of the most precious things we have. However, as we grow older, we begin to recognize the importance of respecting not only the connection we have with our friends, but also the personal space that each of us needs to thrive emotionally, mentally, and physically. The idea that friendship requires constant presence, or that showing up at a friend's door unannounced is always a sign of affection, is something that many of us learn to reconsider over time. In the early days of friendship, it might have felt natural to drop by whenever we pleased, knowing that our presence would always be welcome. We've shared countless hours, from spontaneous adventures to late-night conversations, and the connection we share feels so deep that it seems nothing could ever disturb it. Yet, as life continues to unfold, we realize that every person, no matter how close they are to us, has their own life, their routine, and their own emotional needs that require respect and understanding. What once seemed like a harmless or even thoughtful gesture, a surprise visit, can quickly become an intrusion. Over time, we start to understand that personal space is not just a luxury. It's a necessity for maintaining a sense of balance and well-being. Every person, no matter how loved or cherished, needs time to breathe, to think, to rest, and to simply be. When we drop by unannounced, even with the best of intentions, we risk disrupting the delicate balance of someone's life. We may unintentionally impose upon their mental and emotional space, robbing them of the peace they need to feel grounded. Think about it. We may have spent years building a solid friendship, supporting one another through thick and thin, celebrating milestones, and comforting each other in times of loss. But this history doesn't mean that we are entitled to demand our friends' time whenever we feel the urge to reconnect. The years we've spent together don't grant us the right to invade someone's personal space without prior consideration. And while it may seem trivial to stop by without notice, the impact of that gesture can have a ripple effect on someone's mood, routine, and emotional state. Imagine being in the midst of something deeply personal, whether it's a project at work, a family matter, or simply enjoying some much-needed downtime. Then, out of the blue, the doorbell rings. You weren't expecting anyone. At first, It's a moment of confusion, followed by a sense of anxiety or discomfort. Your heart races as you quickly try to adjust to this unexpected visitor. You may even feel guilty for not being in the right frame of mind to entertain. This might even be someone you've known for decades, someone you love deeply, but the truth is that the sudden intrusion into your life, no matter how well-meaning, can be unsettling. The truth is, as much as we value our friendships, we also need to acknowledge the emotional weight that comes with every unexpected visit. The challenge lies in the balance. We don't want to hurt our friends or make them feel unimportant, but we also cannot ignore our own emotional and mental well-being. Everyone deserves time to recharge, reflect, and tend to their own needs. When a friend drops by without warning, it places an unspoken pressure on you to perform, to be social, to entertain, to give of yourself when you might not have the energy or mental space to do so. This pressure, however small, can affect your relationship with them, as it creates an unspoken tension, an imbalance of energy. That's why a simple phone call or text message before a visit is so powerful. It's not a demand. It's an invitation. It's a request to ensure that both parties are emotionally and mentally prepared to engage in a meaningful way. It's a small act of consideration that allows both friends the opportunity to prepare, to be present in a way that feels comfortable, and to ensure that the time spent together is quality time, free of underlying stress or anxiety. A quick message to ask, "Is this a good time?" shows that you value their space and their peace of mind. It shows that you're not just interested in your desire for connection, but that you're also thinking of their emotional state and needs. Think about how much better it feels when someone reaches out before showing up, whether it's a friend or a loved one. It makes you feel respected, valued, and in control of your own time. It allows you to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally for the visit, ensuring that the time spent together is filled with joy and genuine connection. After all, the best conversations and the most heartfelt moments are those that happen when both people are fully engaged and in a state of emotional readiness. Now, let's consider the story of Jennifer and Kate, two women who had been friends for over 30 years. Their bond was strong, rooted in a history of shared experiences, laughter, and mutual support. They had seen each other through life's most significant moments, from weddings to births to moments of deep loss. Yet, as the years passed, both women found themselves more and more busy, stretched thin by the demands of work, family, and personal responsibilities. The friendship that had once been so carefree began to take on a different shape. Jennifer, in her desire to maintain their close connection, often thought that dropping by Kate's house unannounced would keep their bond strong and intact. She assumed that a surprise visit would be a pleasant way to reconnect. But one day, she arrived at Kate's doorstep without warning, eager to catch up. When Kate opened the door, Jennifer could immediately sense the tension in the air. Kate had been in the middle of an important project, her mind occupied with the many tasks that demanded her attention. She was not in the right frame of mind to entertain, and though she greeted Jennifer warmly, she felt flustered and overwhelmed by the unexpected interruption. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Kate did her best to mask her feelings, but deep down, she couldn't help but feel that the visit was a disruption. Her mind was elsewhere, and it was difficult for her to be fully present in their conversation. Jennifer, too, could sense that something was off. What had been meant as a spontaneous and loving visit ended up feeling awkward and strained. Both women felt out of sync. The connection they had once shared so easily now felt a little more distant. After the visit, Jennifer took a step back and reflected on the situation. She realized that a simple phone call or text could have made all the difference. It wasn't about creating distance between them. It was about showing respect for Kate's time and emotional space. A quick message asking if it was a good time would have given Kate the chance to prepare for the visit, ensuring that both of them could fully enjoy their time together without the unspoken tension. From that moment forward, Jennifer made it a point to reach out before visiting. This small but significant gesture allowed both women to reconnect in a way that felt more intentional and thoughtful. Now, Jennifer and Kate meet regularly at their favorite cafe, a neutral space that is free from the demands of daily life. There, they can sit back, relax, and enjoy each other's company without the pressure of unexpected interruptions. The conversations flow more easily, the laughter comes more naturally, and the bond they share is even stronger than before. Their friendship has evolved, and with that evolution, they have found a deeper, more meaningful way to connect. The truth is that respecting boundaries in friendships is not a sign of distancing ourselves from the people we care about. Instead, it is a sign of maturity, respect, and a deep understanding that relationships thrive when both people are allowed to live their own lives while still nurturing the connection they share. As we age, our need for peace and solitude only increases. It's not about withdrawing from the world, but about preserving our mental and emotional health. By respecting each other's personal space, we ensure that our friendships remain strong, healthy, and filled with genuine love. So, the next time you feel the urge to drop by unannounced, take a moment to consider the emotional and mental state of your friend. A simple call or text can ensure that the time you spend together is filled with warmth, love, and understanding. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's about making sure that the moments you share are meaningful, intentional, and fulfilling for both of you. By showing this kind of thoughtfulness and respect, we deepen the connections that truly matter, and that's something worth cherishing. 2. Don't visit relatives' houses. The idea of family is one of the most sacred and comforting notions that many of us hold dear throughout our lives. When we think about family, we automatically think of warmth, unconditional love, and bonds that are formed over years of shared experiences. We tend to believe that by spending more time with our relatives, we'll only grow closer to them, that more visits will lead to more profound connections and reaffirm the love and care we share. It's a sentiment that seems so easy, so right. After all, if we care for someone, why wouldn't we want to be around them more, especially as we grow older and time seems to pass more quickly? But there's a deeper truth about relationships, one that is often overlooked. Sometimes, the more we try to be close to our family, the further apart we can grow. Family is supposed to be our safety net, our foundation. These are the people who have watched us grow, seen us at our best and our worst, and talked with us through life's challenges. Our parents, siblings, children. They are the ones who hold the shared history, the inside jokes, the family traditions. The idea of visiting relatives regularly sounds like an automatic win for strengthening bonds, right? If we simply spend more time together, surely the love will multiply. These visits are supposed to be full of laughter, heartfelt conversations, and the kind of connection that only family can provide. It seems like such a simple equation. More visits equal more closeness. But there's a subtle complexity to this. As we get older, our lives shift, and the very dynamics of our relationships with family members evolve in ways we might not have expected. At first, the visits are a warm reminder of the shared experiences we've had, the times we've laughed together, cried together, and leaned on each other through hard times. It feels like a natural way to maintain that connection. But the more we push for these regular encounters, the more we can start to feel the strain of constant closeness, and not always in a good way. What once felt like a comforting habit, those regular visits, those spontaneous gatherings, can, over time, become a burden, not just for ourselves, but for the people we care about. The subtle energy of obligation can creep in, and what was once a nurturing relationship can become a source of emotional exhaustion. And this isn't something we often realize right away. It's a truth that slowly unfurls, one that comes with the passing years, as we begin to see how our attempts to stay close can sometimes push others away, even if unintentionally. We may start to feel like we're suffocating those we love, unaware that our constant presence has become overwhelming. I've come to see this truth firsthand. There was a time when I thought that visiting family all the time would keep the relationships vibrant and strong. I thought that more time together meant more love and more memories. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that family is not about constant proximity. It's not about being in each other's space all the time. It's about finding a balance, understanding the delicate dance of giving each other room to breathe, while still holding space in your hearts for each other. This realization was driven home one day when I heard about a man named Paul, a 64-year-old retiree, whose story resonated with me in ways I can't fully explain. Paul's story hit me hard because, in many ways, his experience mirrored my fears and uncertainties about life after retirement. Like many of us, Paul had built his life around his career. His job was not just something he did for a paycheck, it was an integral part of his identity. He was proud of his work, his accomplishments, and the life he had built for himself. But when the time for retirement came, he was left feeling adrift. The structure, the routine that had defined his days for decades, was suddenly gone, leaving him with a sense of emptiness and loss. He wasn't sure how to fill the void left by his job, and the quiet pace of retirement felt foreign to him. For the first time in his life, Paul found himself questioning his worth, his purpose, and how to fill his days without the demands of work. In his quest for comfort and connection, Paul turned to his family and friends. He thought that now that he had more time, he would be able to reconnect with those he'd lost touch with during his busy career. He imagined that the days would be filled with family visits, nostalgic reunions with old friends, and the warmth of familiar faces. He thought these moments would bring the reassurance he needed that he was still valued, still loved, and still important. And so, one afternoon, Paul packed up a box of homemade cookies, a simple gesture meant to convey warmth and goodwill, and set off to visit his longtime friend Richard. Richard, who had retired a few years earlier, was someone Paul had known for decades. They had worked together, shared experiences, and had been through many phases of life side by side. Paul had always thought of Richard as a close, dependable friend, someone with whom he could share stories and laughter. He believed that this visit would be the perfect opportunity to reconnect with Richard, to rekindle the bond they had once enjoyed, and perhaps even to talk about the challenges of retirement. Paul had no grand expectations for the visit. He simply wanted to reconnect and enjoy the company of a longtime friend. But when Paul arrived at Richard's home, something didn't feel right. The door opened, and Richard and his wife Mary greeted him warmly, but there was an underlying tension in the air that Paul couldn't ignore. It wasn't the joyful reunion he had imagined. The familiar comfort he had expected was absent. Instead, there was an unspoken discomfort that hung over the conversation. Richard greeted Paul with a polite but somewhat strained smile. There was no warmth in the embrace that Paul had hoped for. Paul handed over the box of cookies, trying to break the awkwardness, but Richard's response was detached, even apologetic. He mentioned that life had become quieter for him and Mary since their retirement, but there was no joy, no enthusiasm in his voice. It was as if Richard was apologizing for his new life, as if he was sorry for the change that had come over him. The conversation was painfully awkward. The small talk felt forced, as though neither Paul nor Richard knew what to say. Paul tried his best to keep the conversation going, but there was a noticeable gap in their connection. The warmth they once shared was now absent, replaced by polite exchanges that didn't come close to the depth of their previous friendship. The tea they shared was lukewarm, and the silence between words grew heavier with each passing minute. It was clear that this wasn't the joyful reunion Paul had hoped for. It had become a performance, a forced display of civility rather than a genuine connection. Paul began to realize that his visit had unintentionally become a burden. What was meant to be a pleasant afternoon spent reminiscing had instead created an uncomfortable situation. It was as if his very presence had disrupted the quiet, peaceful rhythm that Richard and Mary had built for themselves in retirement. As Paul left their home, the awkwardness lingered in the air. Mary's hurried goodbye felt like a signal that she, too, was eager to return to the solitude that retirement had provided. Paul walked away feeling unsettled, a gnawing discomfort in his chest. It wasn't until later, when Paul reflected on the visit, that the full weight of the experience hit him. His intentions had been pure. He simply wanted to reconnect with a dear friend. But in his eagerness to rekindle the past, he had disrupted the delicate balance that Richard and Mary had established in their retirement. He had failed to see that, for them, Their new rhythm of life required solitude, peace, and a sense of quiet independence. His visit had unintentionally become an obligation, a disruption in the flow of their lives. Paul realized that true connection doesn't come from proximity or frequency. It comes from respecting each other's space, honoring the need for solitude, and understanding when to give each other room to breathe. This experience taught Paul, and me by extension, a profound lesson. Relationships, especially those with family, are not defined by how often we visit or how much time we spend together. True love, true connection, is rooted in understanding the ebb and flow of each person's needs. It's about knowing when to step back and when to step forward. Love doesn't require constant reinforcement. Sometimes, the most loving thing we can do is allow space for silence, and trust that the bond will remain strong even in the moments between visits. Respecting each other's boundaries, emotional and physical, is the key to preserving the deep love and mutual respect that sustains relationships over time. As we grow older, we must learn to cultivate our own space and respect the space of those we love. It's not about keeping a constant physical presence. It's about allowing each other the freedom to live fully, independently, and peacefully. True love, after all, thrives not on obligation but on patience, understanding, and trust. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is recognizing when to step back, to give someone the room they need to breathe and to live. The bond will remain strong because it is not based on visits or presence, but on the quiet, steady understanding that love endures, stronger than ever, in the spaces between. 3. Avoid visiting siblings' houses. There is a sense of comfort, security, and unconditional love that comes with the thought of family, especially when it comes to siblings. From the moment we are born, we are immersed in the belief that family is forever. These are the people who share our first memories, our upbringing, and the deeply personal experiences that shape our sense of self. Siblings are often the ones who know us better than anyone else. They've witnessed our triumphs and struggles, celebrated our victories, and stood by us through our failures. The bond we share with them is rooted in shared history, inside jokes, and countless moments of quiet understanding. It is an unspoken connection that feels unbreakable, a foundation that we expect to stand the test of time. Family is meant to be the steady force in our lives, the constant anchor that supports us through the roller coaster ride of existence. Siblings, in particular, are supposed to be the ones who are there, no matter what life throws our way. They are our childhood companions, the ones who helped shape us into who we are today. The idea of family as a steadfast presence, a pillar of love and security, is something many of us cling to, even as we age. It is easy to believe that the relationships we form with those we grow up with will endure for life. They are supposed to be the relationships that never waver, the ones that continue to offer us the strength we need, regardless of what else is happening in the world. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But as we grow older, change becomes a constant companion. And with that change, it's inevitable that the relationships we have, even with our closest family members, begin to evolve. The strong, unbreakable bonds we once felt with our siblings, those bonds that were cemented by childhood memories, shared experiences, and the simplicity of family life, can sometimes start to feel fragile. It's a painful realization, one that many of us are reluctant to face. As time passes, those once comforting and ever-present connections may start to feel more distant, especially as each sibling grows older and begins to focus more on their own life. At first, it may seem unthinkable that the dynamics of your relationship with your siblings could ever change. How could these bonds, so deeply rooted in your shared history, ever become less significant? But as time marches on, the natural course of life can begin to shift those dynamics. Responsibilities, work, marriages, children, and aging parents create new pressures and demands that make it harder to maintain the same level of closeness. As these changes unfold, we may start to realize that the level of proximity and frequency of visits that once felt natural no longer works for everyone involved. It's painful to accept, yet deeply necessary. Family gatherings, those once vibrant and chaotic celebrations of love may not always be as they once were. The warmth of having everyone under one roof, the laughter filling the air, the easy conversations, these moments can become more infrequent, quieter, and even somewhat strained. Family members may begin to drift apart, not because they no longer love each other, but because the pressures of life have created an emotional distance that becomes hard to overcome. There is a point where the emotional weight of constant visits, of trying to uphold traditions and expectations, can become overwhelming. It's not that the love has faded, but that sometimes space is needed. Space to breathe, to grow, to thrive independently. Consider the story of the Martin family, a once close group of 5 siblings in their 50s and 60s, each carrying decades of shared memories, inside jokes, and a deep-rooted bond that defined their childhood. The Martins' family life was the very picture of warmth and togetherness. Their parents' home was the center of their world, a place where the doors were always open, and where holidays were marked by joy and connection. It was the type of family dynamic that many envied: closeness, shared rituals, and love that seemed endless. The Martins never questioned that their bond would last forever. It felt as if it was woven into the fabric of their identity. However, as the years passed, the reality of change began to set in. Life, as it tends to do, introduces new challenges and responsibilities for each sibling. They grew older, developed careers, started families of their own, and began to navigate the pressures of their own lives. Their parents, once a constant source of energy and joy, began to age, and the once bustling family home started to quiet down. The gatherings, once frequent and lively, became less regular. Family dinners that once felt like celebrations now felt more like obligations. The Martins began to realize that while they still loved each other deeply, the constant visits and the unspoken expectation to maintain the same level of connection were starting to feel more like a burden. One of the siblings, Sarah, felt this shift most acutely. For years, she had been the glue that held the family together, the one who took on the responsibility of organizing family gatherings, making sure everyone was involved, and ensuring that the bonds they shared remained strong. She was the one who reached out regularly and kept the family tradition alive. But over time, Sarah began to feel the weight of these expectations. The constant effort to keep up the facade of family unity began to drain her. It wasn't that she didn't love her siblings. It was that the pressure to maintain closeness, to uphold the ideal of constant togetherness, had started to suffocate her. The more she pushed for connection, the more she felt emotionally drained, and the more distant the relationship seemed. Sarah's breaking point came when she realized that the more she worked to organize these gatherings, the less meaningful they felt. Instead of feeling recharged after spending time with her siblings, she found herself exhausted and overwhelmed by the emotional labor of trying to hold everything together. She wasn't alone in this feeling, though. After a particularly difficult holiday season, Sarah decided to have an honest conversation with her siblings. She shared her feelings of exhaustion, her need for personal space, and her belief that they all needed to give each other the freedom to live their lives without the pressure of constant visits. To her surprise, her siblings were understanding and compassionate. They, too, had been feeling the strain of trying to maintain the level of closeness that had once been effortless. This conversation was a turning point for the Martins. It was a moment of vulnerability and honesty that allowed them to see that their relationship didn't have to be defined by the frequency of visits or the expectation of constant closeness. Instead, they agreed to shift their focus toward quality rather than quantity. They decided that the best way to honor their bond was to allow themselves the freedom to live their lives without guilt, and to give each other the space to grow and thrive independently. Their visits became less frequent, but when they did meet, they were filled with real connection and joy. This shift didn't diminish their bond, it deepened it. They found that by respecting each other's need for space, they allowed their relationship to evolve naturally. The pressure to maintain an artificial sense of togetherness lifted, and with it came a renewed appreciation for the times they did spend together. They learned that love isn't about how often you see someone or how many sacrifices you make. It's about understanding when to let go and allowing the relationship to grow at its own pace. True love is rooted in the knowledge that sometimes, stepping back is just as important as coming together. It's about understanding that everyone needs their own space to live their life, and that this space doesn't diminish the bond but strengthens it. As we grow older, we learn that love, particularly in sibling relationships, is not about constant physical presence but about emotional understanding. Love is knowing when to step back and when to allow the natural ebb and flow of relationships to occur. It's about recognizing that while family ties are incredibly important, the greatest gift we can give to each other is the freedom to grow as individuals, carve out our paths, and find joy in life's journey without the weight of unrealistic expectations. As we age, it becomes even more critical to honor both our own need for solitude and the space of those we love. For siblings, this is a delicate balance that requires deep understanding, patience, and empathy. The relationships that last are the ones that allow for change, growth, and space. Relationships where love is not measured by how often we are physically present, but by how deeply we care for each other's well-being. This space, this understanding, is what ensures that sibling bonds remain strong, vibrant, and enduring as we navigate the challenges of life. 4. Avoid visiting the homes of overly tidy people. Visiting someone's home is so much more than just a casual social call. It's an experience that transcends the simple act of sharing a cup of coffee or having a brief chat. When you step across the threshold of someone's home, you are entering a personal space that tells a powerful story. It's not just about the furniture or the decor, it's about the essence of the person who resides there. It's a deeply intimate moment where you get a glimpse into someone's soul, their values, their dreams, and often, their struggles. You're stepping into their world, and that space has been carefully curated, whether consciously or unconsciously, to reflect who they are at their core. A home speaks volumes, sometimes more than words ever could. From the way the furniture is arranged to the tiny knickknacks collected over a lifetime, everything in a home has meaning. When we're young, we don't always realize how much our environment affects us. We take for granted the space we occupy, often using it simply as a backdrop to the hustle and bustle of life. But as we grow older, we begin to see our surroundings with new eyes. We start to recognize the emotional power of the spaces we inhabit. We become keenly aware of the way our home can influence our emotional state, how a tidy, serene room can calm the mind, or how a cluttered, chaotic one can make us feel uneasy and restless. As time passes and life shifts, our need for tranquility within our homes deepens. We long for spaces that offer a sense of order, calm, and peace, a stark contrast to the world outside, which often feels like a constant whirlwind of change, noise, and uncertainty. In our younger years, we might have been able to ignore the disarray of a cluttered room or the noise of a busy household. But as we mature, we begin to crave simplicity, harmony, and balance. Our homes become not just a shelter from the elements, but a sanctuary where we can recharge, where we can find solace and peace. They are places that hold our memories, our emotions, and often our deepest fears and desires. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For many, especially as we enter the later stages of life, a home is no longer just a structure. It becomes a deeply personal retreat, a sacred space that provides us with a sense of stability in a world that can feel increasingly unpredictable. We've worked hard all our lives to build a place that feels like ours, a space that provides us with comfort, familiarity, and emotional security. It's within these walls that we allow ourselves to fully be who we are, to let down the walls we put up for the outside world. It's in our homes where we seek refuge from the noise, the chaos, and the demands of others. And for many of us, especially as we grow older, our homes become more essential to our well-being than ever before. When you have a home that is orderly, organized, and clean, it isn't just about making it look nice for guests or to impress others. It's about the emotional peace that this order brings. It's about creating an environment that feels stable and controlled, where everything has its place and the chaos of the outside world can't intrude. As we age, we become more attuned to the importance of maintaining that order. A tidy home isn't just a reflection of a neat personality. It's a reflection of our desire for emotional clarity, peace, and a sense of control over our environment. Take Ryan, for instance. For Ryan, maintaining a perfectly tidy home is not just a matter of personal preference. It's a deeply ingrained part of his emotional well-being. For him, the act of ensuring that every surface is wiped clean, every object is placed precisely where it belongs, and every space is free from clutter isn't just about aesthetics. It's about creating a safe, predictable, and peaceful haven for himself. The meticulous organization of his home is a reflection of his need for balance, harmony, and control in a world that often feels overwhelming and out of his hands. While visitors might see Ryan's home as overly meticulous, even perhaps a bit obsessive, Ryan views it as a deeply personal sanctuary. His home is the one place where he can retreat from the outside world, where the demands of work, social obligations, and life's uncertainties can't reach him. His home is where he can fully relax, knowing that the space around him is under his control and that everything is in its place and perfect order. For Ryan, this sense of control and peace is essential to his mental health. It gives him the strength to face the challenges of the outside world, knowing that when he walks through his front door, he's entering a place that reflects his need for tranquility. We may not all be as rigid or meticulous as Ryan when it comes to keeping our homes in perfect order, but we all have our unique ways of creating spaces that nurture our emotional well-being. Some of us might seek out cozy, clutter-filled rooms that offer a sense of comfort and warmth, while others may prefer minimalist, streamlined spaces that create a sense of calm and serenity. No matter how we choose to organize and decorate our homes, the key is that our living space becomes a reflection of who we are and what we need emotionally. In our later years, we begin to understand the importance of this more than ever. Our homes are no longer just places to rest our heads. They are sanctuaries where we can retreat from the noise of the world and focus on nurturing our emotional, physical, and spiritual health. The need for order, peace, and control becomes vital for our sense of well-being. As we age, it's more important than ever to ensure that our surroundings reflect that need, a need for emotional stability, inner peace, and a sense of refuge from a world that can sometimes feel too demanding and too overwhelming. When we visit someone's home, we're not just stepping into their space, we're witnessing a part of who they are. And if their home feels overly tidy, sterile, or controlled, we may sense that they, too, are seeking emotional refuge, a sense of security in the chaos of life. It's not about judgment. It's about understanding the profound role that our homes play in our emotional health. Whether we prefer an orderly, meticulously organized space or a more relaxed, lived-in environment, what truly matters is that our homes are places where we can find peace, where we can be ourselves, and where we can feel safe and loved. As we wrap up today's discussion, we've explored the profound connection between our homes and our emotional well-being. We've learned that the spaces we inhabit are far more than just places to sleep. They are extensions of ourselves, offering peace, comfort, and refuge from the outside world. Whether it's the tranquility of an orderly home or the warmth of a cozy, lived-in space, our environment plays a pivotal role in our mental and emotional health. So, what have you learned so far? Think about the role your home plays in your life. Is it a sanctuary that provides you with peace and order, or do you feel like your space could use a little more harmony? I'd love to hear what resonated most with you today. Please share one thing you've learned in this video that you'll bring into practice in your own life. Drop a comment below and let us know. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support means the world to us. Stay tuned for more insights, and take care of your home and your heart.